In 1951, producer Howard Hawks shocked the world with his science fiction thriller The Thing. Based on a story by John W. Campbell, writing under the name of Don Stewart, that movie became a classic in its field. Maybe it is best known for its leading man. Gunsmoke's James Arness played the title role, an 8-foot homicidal vegetable from another planet. The summer of 1982 will bring another thing from another world to Earth. A new telling of the tale is currently being made by director John Carpenter for Universal Studios. Carpenter is considered by many to be the leading filmmaker in the field of terror and suspense, a reputation earned by his previous features Halloween, The Fog, and Escape from New York.
The Thing, the first movie, was always one of my favorite films. It was pretty much directed by Howard Hawks in 1949 or 50. And it was based on a short story called Who Goes There, and which happens to be one of my favorites. And I thought, when they offered me the remake of The Thing, rather than remaking the original film, I thought I'd go back to the short story, which I felt was never done, and do something really entirely different.
Carpenter's version of The Thing is difficult to shoot. The movie is being made on location in Alaska and British Columbia, in addition to the sound stages at Universal. Here in Stewart, British Columbia, the crew, mostly rooming on a logging barge, loads up onto buses to make the treacherous 1.5-hour trip to the actual shooting site. Their day begins before the sun comes up and lasts well into the night.
Hold in. Hey, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Oh,
What's
man.
going on?
We're on, hey, this must be a
Good
movie.
morning, good morning, good morning. How are you?
And action.
Staying beside you?
Yeah, my shack's too cold. I left the stove off this morning. Besides, there's 9 hours of these videotapes.
Mac, where's your
Leading the cast is Kurt Russell, a favorite of director John Carpenter. They developed their mutual admiration society during the making of ABC's highly rated Elvis movie. They worked together again on Escape from New York, where Kurt played supercriminal Snake Plissken. In The Thing, Russell plays McReady.
Let's do one more rehearsal with the camera this time. You don't have to pick that thing.
Basically, my feeling about the movie is that it's an exercise in human paranoia and what people go through to get to that place. And then when your paranoia turns rampant, with the added problem of reality, of it being true, that your paranoia has come true, what sort of disaster that means to the human being. And in this particular story, 12 guys begin to mistrust and distrust and be so leery of each other that they're barely able to function. And the reason for that is because we've got one great monster.
What kind of cell structure is this?
Well, you see, that's the point.
I don't get your blame.
I'm not sure it is any kind of cell structure. At least as we know cell structure. You see, when this thing attacked our dogs, it tried to shape its own cells to imitate theirs. We got to it before it had time to finish.
Finish what?
Finish imitating these dogs.
You're saying that thing in the ice was trying to become our dogs?
Yeah. Seems to be able to imitate other life forms.
So what's our problem?
The thing's not dead yet.
Great.
One of the reasons that I'm keeping photos of The Thing secret is because it's of the nature of the thing. It's really impossible to photograph it because it's never any one thing at any one time. It's constantly changing. So it has no original form. Therefore, there is no real way to present it. So I don't want anybody to take a picture of it. I felt the original film took the setting and the basic premise from Who Goes There, but I felt that the nature of the monster, the idea of imitation and it being a chameleon, was never utilized in the original film, so I decided to make a version of that. Cut! Brent, great.
It was extremely difficult to find a location that looks like the South Pole. that has, you know, mountains and glaciers. In the beginning, I went to, through most of northern Canada, Greenland, Frobisher Bay, you know, in the winter, and checked all these things. And eventually I arrived here because there was a hotel nearby, a road, and the scenery was, you know, was quite pretty.
This entire compound, where most of the action in the film takes place, was built on the Salmon Glacier during the summer of 1981. By the time the film was shot the following winter, nature had cooperated by blanketing the set with almost all the snow they needed. It is ironic that in the middle of the snowfall capital of the world, special effects man Roy Arbogast and his crew had to dump artificial snow in front of the wind machines for the blizzard effects.
We look cold. Nobody in their right mind wears this much clothing.
We're in our right minds.
Yes, because we were out here dressed like I dress at home, we'd be in big trouble. Big trouble.
Fireplace rehearsal.
And action.
There's this creature within that really takes care of all the violence in the picture. There's not very much of it. It's really results. You really do see results. It's much more of a mind game, much more of a mind violence in what I would consider a real ultra John Carpenter fashion. He really sets it up and then lets your imagination do a lot for you. You see a lot, but I think what your imagination comes up with is probably much scarier than what you see.
The entire film is a challenge because I'm dealing with 12 actors in a kind of group situation. I'm dealing with shooting in very rough conditions in the snow, which is always very difficult. Dealing with big effect scenes, big chase scenes, big explosions. It's just very complex.
Let's get high to ride.
Shooting 850 miles north of Vancouver, thrown together in the middle of nowhere, the cast jumps at the chance to create a party. Anything to fight off cabin fever.
The weather's so bad outside you can't believe your eyes. When your bus goes sliding down a mountainside, the only thing left to do is be high to ride.
I've enjoyed just being here most of all. I mean, there's been some great scenes where all 12 men are looking at each other and trying to figure out who's who, if you are my best friend or if you are about to thing out on me and kill me. But my favorite thing in this whole picture is to be able to be up here in a location like this and just be able to shoot up here. It's unbelievably fantastic.
The Thing is one of the best screenplays I've ever read, and it's unique in a real special sort of way, and I just love it.
The Thing is a major new direction in fright for John Carpenter. It is a suspenseful tale of fear and paranoia and can be expected to bring a chill into the summer heat waves.
Very good. That's too great.
All right. Open up! Open up the smalls! Open up!
Close that door. Where's McGreedy?
I cut him loose on the line up by his shack. McCready? He's one of them. When do you think it got to him? I don't know.
Could have been any time if it did get to him.
Hey, look, Childs, come on.
When the lights went out.
That would have been a perfect time.
Right, you said Gary was missing. And Windus, where were you?
Hey, Palmer, I told you to shut
Where
the
were you?
Guess what it was?
Oh, when the lights went out.
Guess what it was? The players against each other.
Hollywood movie studios love a good remake. They were doing them long before Frankenstein became Young Frankenstein. Now, director John Carpenter has brought to life the 1951 Howard Hawks science fiction classic, The Thing. Carpenter calls the picture less a remake than a refashioning.
I felt at first it might be a mistake to try to remake any film. But then on thinking about it, what a challenge.
The Thing was adapted from the 1938 pulp story Who Goes There, written by John Campbell, one of the deans of science fiction. It concerns an isolated group of research scientists at the South Pole who battle a murderous creature from another planet with the power to change its form and possess its victim's mind and body. actor Kurt Russell.
In this particular story, 12 guys begin to mistrust and distrust and be so leery of each other that they're barely able to function.
This version is quite different than the Hawks version. The biggest change in the film is the nature of the monster.
In the 1951 version of The Thing, the monster looks like a man, but is composed of vegetable matter. It's been criticized for its naivete and called an intellectual carrot. Not so the Carpenter version, which makes a gruesome metamorphosis from body to body.
It's really impossible to photograph it because it's never any one thing at any one time. It's constantly changing, so it has no original form.
In keeping with the imagination of the times, Hawk's monster meets its end by being electrocuted. Carpenter's adaptation comes closer to the original story, but with a more volatile and startling climax.
To me, what's fascinating about the idea of who goes there and John Carpenter's The Thing is the idea that what we have to deal with is so bizarre, and yet it's no more bizarre than what The Thing has to deal with. We're as bizarre to it as it is to us.
More than ever before, movie makers are going on location to add realism to their films. The setting for John Carpenter's new movie, The Thing, is the ultimate desert, Antarctica. To simulate those severe conditions, Carpenter chose Stewart, British Columbia, and the Taku Glacier in Juneau, Alaska.
We picked Alaska primarily for its look, and secondly, because we could get access to the ice fields and the glaciers and build our sets out there.
A principal movie set is the American Research Station, which was constructed near the former gold rush town of Stewart, British Columbia. Every hotel room in the remote community of 1,500 was booked, and crews worked for weeks in temperatures near 30 degrees below zero.
We had a lot of problems in filming. It was cold. We had to fly in by helicopter every day to do our shots and then fly back out. A limited amount of daylight because we were shooting in November and December. We had lenses that would freeze up on us.
Yeah, #1.
Star of the movie, Kurt Russell, used to the palmier climes of Southern California, enjoyed working in Canada.
It was pretty rugged. I mean, it was pretty interesting. It was like being on the moon, kind of, you know. It was nothing but whiteness around you.
Despite the heavy snowfall, Hollywood was not to be outdone by nature. Large fans blew in artificial snow to beef up the blizzard scenes. Interior locations were filmed on frozen-down stages in the middle of a torrid Los Angeles summer.
It was about 108 degrees, and we were shooting on sets that were 20 degrees and wearing heavy parkas and things. And so when you go outside, it was difficult not to catch colds and get sick.
If shooting on location adds important elements of realism, Carpenter admits it also brings its own share of difficulties.
I'm dealing with shooting in very rough conditions in the snow, which is always very difficult. Dealing with big effect scenes, big chase scenes, big explosions. It's just very complex.
The phrase masters of the macabre used to apply to writers of science fiction and horror stories. Today's Wizards of Wonder are movie makeup special effects artists. Films like An American Werewolf in London, The Howling, and John Carpenter's new film, The Thing, would be impossible without them.
We actually perform a magic trick, if you will, on stage in front of a camera. So it looks totally believable. In other words, there's no way that we haven't fooled the audience because it looks so good.
For The Thing, director John Carpenter wanted the monster to be completely different from the creature in the original 1951 film. Rob Bottin, 23-year-old special effects wizard.
And I would just say a joke out of black humor like, the guy's stomach rips open and turns into a big mouth, and he bites this guy's arms off. And John would start laughing and he'd go, that's not a bad idea.
Makeup special effects artists are a new breed. Besides designing what things will look like, they employ mechanical devices which transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. To make The Thing believable, Bottin needed appropriate stand-ins for real actors.
You go ahead and make a puppet that looks exactly like the person, and then putting mechanical effects inside to go ahead and move, the puppet. We'll use hydraulics, we'll use pneumatics. We even ran one of the puppets off of a computer. The monster is constantly, you know, dripping goo, you know, and all that stuff. And then sometimes we use mayonnaise or cream corn, eggs for eyeballs, you know. It all looks good because it's real.
For a man capable of producing such horrifying effects, Bottin admits a real monster would scare the life out of him.
Some of the ideas and stuff, I guess, are just from having a very big imagination. You know, I'm always daydreaming about things. And also, I was afraid of the dark when I was a kid, you know, so I was always wondering, you know, what would be under the bed.
America's love affair with horror movies. Who makes them? Who creates them? Who loves them?
I like the blood, I like the gruesome stuff. That's real nice.
Find out why, in Hollywood, horror's the thing. America's love affair with horror movies. Who makes them? Who creates them? Who loves them?
You can scare me out of my seat. I'll sit there and watch it.
Find out why, in Hollywood, horror's the thing. Find out why, in Hollywood, horror's the thing.
Yes, master.
He thinks I'm Dracula.
Throughout Hollywood's history, the most consistently successful form of entertainment has been the horror film. And today, movie makers are unleashing them on audiences in record numbers, audiences scared out of their wits and loving every minute.
I like the blood, I like the gruesome stuff. That's real nice.
Oh, I like when I can make faces, when I can chill, when I'm with somebody in a movie, I can I can cuddle up with. It's nice to be scared.
The more you scare people, the more they get that physical release, the more they feel good about letting it go.
You can scare me out of my seat. I'll sit there and watch it.
We've gotten very sophisticated. We've got very creative people creating moving faces.
Good idea to come back, yeah.
One of those people is director John Carpenter, a leading creative force in Hollywood's reign of terror.
It's fun to make people laugh, and it's fun to scare people. There's an emotional reaction from the audience. If you're getting that, you can really feel it. People standing in dark corners, kind of lurking there, and you know what's going to happen. It's going to jump out and get you.
I look around to see other people's reactions. Are they really as scared as me, or am I making a fool out of myself?
Put my head over my mom's legs. All right, that's kind of like that.
Whatever the reaction, one thing seems certain. Everyone enjoys a really good scare.
I do love the scary movies. They're great.
I don't like to be scared.
But they're only masks.
I'd rather watch Fred Astaire dance.
Movie director John Carpenter is best known for his suspense thrillers Halloween, The Fog, and Escape from New York. Yet few people realize that he has written and directed a wide range of films and has even composed the musical scores for several of his movies.
My father was a PhD in music. He headed a music department in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I grew up around music, and I sort of assimilated it without really knowing much about it.
From Bowling Green, Carpenter traveled to Los Angeles, where he attended the famous USC Film School. After writing and directing several smaller films, he hit it big with the movie Halloween, now considered a classic study in terror and suspense.
I like situations in which people are trapped, and people are under pressure. I kind of respond to it. It's kind of my life view. And that's the way I make film.
Carpenter next directed the critically acclaimed television movie Elvis, which starred Kurt Russell, who also worked with Carpenter in Escape from New York.
He has a style. He has a definite style. I can watch a show and know immediately that it's a John Carpenter picture, just by the way the camera moves and the way the timing of it moves.
Russell has the starring role in Carpenter's latest film, The Thing, a refashioning of the classic 1951 horror film.
It's basically about a creature from outer space who can imitate any kind of life form. and look exactly like it.
We found this.
Monster movies are hard to make because you have to get the audience to believe in something that isn't real. And it's a challenge to make the audience believe that this thing is actually real and is actually doing what it's doing. And I wouldn't say it's fun to do, but it's rewarding when it works.
Actor Kurt Russell was 10 years old in 1961 when he began acting in numerous television series. Within a short time, he established himself as one of Hollywood's most sought-after teenage actors, eventually settling on a long-term contract with Walt Disney Studios. Russell virtually grew up on the Disney lot, starring in 9 films over a 10-year period.
I just found that I enjoyed working on the set more than I did being in public school. I never did like public school, and my folks always felt that I progressed a lot more in many, many ways as a human being and as a student.
But it was Russell's portrayal of Elvis Presley in the 1979 television movie Elvis that made the critics finally stand up and take notice.
It was difficult to separate the picture from the character because the character was the picture. It didn't make any difference really what went on there except that Elvis was there and then you did Elvis. If you did that well, then the show went well.
Elvis was Russell's first experience working with director John Carpenter.
I think Kurt Russell is a great actor. He's one of the few actors that I've met that I felt that he can really play anything.
Indeed, the Elvis movie opened new doors for Russell, including a shot at comedy. He received rave reviews for his comedic efforts in Used Cars. And teaming up again with John Carpenter, he starred in the science fiction thriller Escape from New York.
I just loved playing a character who was totally one-dimensional. And I love that kind of movie. Only can you do that in the movies, and only can you be like that in the movies.
Russell plays a similar character in The Thing, his latest movie with Carpenter, a refashioning of the 1951 classic horror film.
When I'm scared by something, it's because I don't know what it is and I'm confused by it. I think that when I was playing the part of MacReady in The Thing, that's basically what I was looking at, was the amazement of it.
At 31, having achieved new success and new recognition, Kurt Russell reflects on his 21 years in show business.
All I could ever say about it was I would wish for everybody to have the kind of, life that I've had. I just can't complain.
In 1951, director Howard Hawks terrified and delighted American moviegoers with his science fiction thriller, The Thing, based on the short story by John Campbell, and best remembered by film buffs today because of the movie's leading man, Gunsmoke's James Arness. And now, a new version of The Thing has been filmed by director John Carpenter, considered by many to be Hollywood's leading master of terror and suspense, a reputation earned by his previous films, Halloween, The Fog, and Escape from New York.
The Thing, the first movie, was always one of my favorite films. It was pretty much directed by Howard Hawks in 1949 or 50. And it was based on a short story called Who Goes There? And which happens to be one of my favorites. And I thought when they offered me the remake of The Thing, rather than remaking the original film, I thought I'd go back to the short story, which I felt was never done, and do something really entirely different.
Carpenter's version of The Thing was filmed on location in Alaska and British Columbia, in addition to the California sound stages of Universal Pictures. In Stewart, British Columbia, the crew rode on buses for the treacherous 1.5-hour trip to the actual shooting site. Their day began before the sun came up and lasted well into the night.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. Oh, man. What's going on? We're on, hey, look at your movie.
Good morning, good morning. How are you?
And action.
Leading the cast is Kurt Russell, a favorite of director Carpenter, who first worked with Russell during the making of the highly acclaimed television movie Elvis. They worked together again on Escape from New York.
Basically, my feeling about the movie is that it's an exercise in human paranoia and what people go through to get to that place. And then when your paranoia turns rampant with the added problem of reality, of it being true, that your paranoia has come true, what sort of disaster that means to a human being. And in this particular story, 12 guys begin to mistrust and distrust and be so leery of each other that they're barely able to function. And the reason for that is because we've got one great monster.
In this film, The Thing, a creation of Hollywood's special effects wizards, is actually a variety of monsters, an alien from another world with the ability to imitate virtually any life form.
What kind of cell structure is this?
Well, you see, that's the point.
I don't get your plan.
I'm not sure it is any kind of cell structure.
So what's our problem?
The thing's not dead yet.
Great.
There's this creature within that really takes care of all the violence in the picture. There's not very much of it. It's really results. You really do see results. It's much more of a mind game, much more of a mind violence in what I would consider a real ultra John Carpenter fashion. He really sets it up and then lets your imagination do a lot for you. You see a lot, but I think what your imagination comes up with is probably much scarier than what you see.
My God, what the hell happened here?
The entire film is a challenge because I'm dealing with 12 actors in a kind of a group situation. I'm dealing with shooting in very rough conditions in the snow, which is always very difficult. Dealing with big effect scenes, big chase scenes, big explosions. It's just very complex.
There's been some great scenes where all 12 men are looking at each other and trying to figure out who's who, if you are my best friend or if you are about to thing out on me and kill me. But my favorite thing in this whole picture is to be able to be up here in a location like this and just be able to shoot up here. It's unbelievably fantastic.
The Thing is one of the best screenplays I've ever read, and it's unique in a real special sort of way, and I just love it.
Whoa. Oh. Well, do you think we're gonna...
Stay inside? Yeah, my shack's too cold. Another stove on this morning. Besides, there's 9 hours of videotape.
Hey,
oh yeah.
Okay. We won't have that white situation over there.
Right.
So I think we'll be okay.
What we might want to do it, we could just do a little pullback from, say clear him.
Good idea. Then come back,
into here, and then
come in the situation here. That sounds good.
And maybe put Palmer fooling with the hydraulics in the front of the blade here.
All right, good. Good.
Are we clear to go right up to
Yeah, I'm excluding the whole bomb here.
Great. You better drink this before it's block of ice.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Oh,
What's going on?
We're on. Hey, this must be a movie.
Good morning. How are you?